So today, we're talking about Qilin. Now, if you're in the cybersecurity world, that name has probably been on your radar because it's become synonymous with some of the most, disruptive and chaotic digital attacks we've seen in a long time. So let's figure out why that is.
Okay, so to really get this, let's set the scene. It's June 2024, in London. On the surface, it's just another day in one of the busiest cities on the planet. But behind the scenes, a digital time bomb was ticking. One that was about to bring the city's entire healthcare system to its knees.
And this is the immediate human cost. We're not talking about abstract data here. This number, over 1,100, represents real people. People waiting for critical surgeries, organ transplants, even just essential blood tests, and all of it just canceled. This is where a cyber attack becomes terrifyingly real.
And what was all of this pain and disruption for? This, a staggering $50 million ransom demand. That was the price tag they put on ending the chaos. $50 million.
So yeah, this whole crisis was the Synovicis ransomware attack. And you might not have heard of Synovis, but they are absolutely critical. They're the pathology services provider for London's NHS. That means they handle everything, from routine blood tests to complex disease diagnostics for major hospitals. So you see, hitting them wasn't just hitting one company, it was like taking a sledgehammer to the entire healthcare system.
And the fallout was just absolutely devastating. Critical diagnostic services were completely crippled. We're talking thousands upon thousands of appointments canceled, but believe it or not, it gets worse. See, the attackers didn't just lock up the systems, no, they stole a mind-boggling 400 gigabytes of super sensitive data. And we're talking data from an estimated 300 million patient interactions. And when that $50 million ransom wasn't paid, they just leaked it all online for everyone to see.
So the big question is, who on earth is behind this level of chaos? Well, it's time to meet them. They call themselves the Qilin Ransomware Group. And you need to understand, these aren't just some guys in a basement. This is a sophisticated global criminal enterprise.
Now, Qilin didn't just appear overnight. They've been around for a little bit. We first saw them back in 2022 when they were using the name Agenda. But pretty quickly, by the end of that year, they'd already rebranded, seriously upgraded their malware, and started this incredibly rapid climb. And that quick evolution, it's what's turned them into one of the most active and, frankly, most dangerous ransomware operations in the world today.
Okay, so this is really the key to understanding how they operate. Their go-to weapon is something called double extortion, and it is a viciously effective one-two punch. First, they sneak in and steal all your most sensitive data. Then, after they've got it, they encrypt all your files, locking you out of your own systems. So now they have two ways to squeeze you. You have to pay them to get your files back, and you have to pay them so they don't leak all your stolen secrets to the entire world. It's brutal.
And look, this is where that threat becomes incredibly real. What you're seeing is a glimpse of Qilin's actual leak site on the dark web. It's basically a digital wall of shame. This is where they post all the private, sensitive data of companies that refuse to pay up. It's the public face of that double extortion threat, and it's designed to be absolutely terrifying.
So I want you to get one thing straight. This is not just random hacking. Not at all. This is a business, a highly profitable, incredibly organized business. You could literally call it Cybercrime Inc.
And how do they run this business? Well, they use a model called Ransomware as a Service, or RaaS for short. The easiest way to think about it is like a criminal franchise. You've got the Qilin operators, they're the corporate headquarters. They develop the malware, they run the leak sites. Then they lease all of that out to other criminals who they call affiliates. These affiliates are the ones who actually carry out the attacks. They do the dirty work, and here's the kicker. They get to keep a huge cut, somewhere between 80 and 85% of the ransom. It's a massively powerful incentive that fuels this whole ecosystem.
So let's just break down this partnership, right? On one side, you have the operators. They're the brains, the developers. They create the malware, they maintain it, they run the leak site and the payment portal. Then, on the other side, you have the affiliates. They're the muscle. They're the ones out there finding targets, breaking into networks, stealing the data, and negotiating with the victims. It's this division of labor that allows the whole operation to scale so incredibly fast and hit so many targets.
So, what's really fascinating is the toolkit they actually use to do all this. To get in the door, their initial access, it's often something as simple as a well-crafted phishing email. But once they're inside, they start using some really powerful tools like Cobalt Strike to move around the network without being seen, stealing passwords as they go. And here's a clever bit. When it's time to steal the data, they often use totally common, legitimate file transfer tools. Why? Because it helps them blend in with normal network traffic and avoid setting off any alarms. But Qilin's playbook goes way beyond just technology. They use some really unorthodox psychological pressure tactics. For example, their control panel for affiliates apparently has a call lawyer button, just to intimidate victims during negotiations. If that's not enough, they'll launch massive DDoS attacks to crash your public website. They even have what they call in-house journalists to write nasty, shaming posts about you. And maybe the most disturbing part? They've actually been seen working with state-sponsored hacking groups like North Korea's Moonstone Sleet. That's a whole other level.
Okay, so we've talked about how they operate, but just how widespread is this threat? Let's take a look at who they're attacking and where to really understand the scale of this thing. Just take a look at this number. Over 700. That's how many attacks they've claimed in just the last year alone. Let's put that into perspective. That works out to nearly 2 successful attacks published on their leak site every single day. The pace is just relentless.
And they are definitely not random about who they hit. They have their favorite targets. You can see here, industrials and manufacturing are at the top of the list, followed by professional and commercial services. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it. Why these guys? Because these are the sectors that absolutely cannot afford to be offline. Every minute of downtime costs them a fortune, which, from the attacker's perspective, makes them much more likely to pay the ransom.
And when we look at it geographically, the picture is just as clear. The overwhelming majority of their victims are in North America and Europe. There's no question that this is a major threat aimed squarely at Western economies.
And sometimes their attacks are surgically precise. Take this quote from the security firm Bitdefender. They analyzed a campaign they called the Korean Leaks. What they found was that Qilin's affiliates systematically went after South Korea's financial services sector. Almost every single victim was in finance. It just goes to show you that they are more than capable of launching these highly focused, strategic campaigns against an entire industry.
So, this right here, this is the new face of cybercrime. It is organized, it's run like a business, and it is absolutely relentless. Which brings us to the most important question of all. What in the world can we do to defend against it?
All right, so let's talk defense. Here are 5 absolutely key strategies. Think of this as the playbook for resilience. First, and this is a big one, enforce multi-factor authentication on everything. It's probably the single most effective thing you can do. Second, you have to educate your employees to spot those phishing attempts, because that's so often the way in. Third, basic hygiene. Keep your systems patched. Apply those security updates promptly. Fourth, backups. Make sure they're secure, kept offline, and, this is key, that you actually test them. And finally, segment your network. Wall off different parts, so if an attacker gets into one area, they can't get to everything else.
So, if you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this. Groups like Qilin prove that modern ransomware is no longer just a technical problem for the IT department to solve. It is a fundamental, complex business risk that has to be managed at the highest levels of any organization, because the people you're up against are operating just like a sophisticated multinational company.
And that leaves us with a final, pretty chilling question that really gets to the heart of this new reality. When cybercrime starts running with the efficiency, the scale, and the ambition of a global business, is anyone really, truly safe?